Good afternoon and welcome to Kitty Talks. We share inspirational life stories that empower you to create yours. And today I have with me a very, very good friend of mine, Sukhi Wahiwala.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Kitty, for having me on this amazingly inspiring channel.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation because you are going to be privy to hearing this gentleman's life story. And it's not a life story that he has shared in many places. So let me tell you a little bit more about Sukhi and what he does in the world. He's an award-winning mentor, thought leader, and entrepreneur. He coaches some of the UK's kind of top personal development personalities. He's the man behind many men. So he is a very good friend of mine, and I'm really pleased that you have come on Kitty Talks to share your story.
And women, not just men.
Absolutely, absolutely. So do you mind sharing with our audience, Sukhi, a little bit more about who you are and what you do in the world?
Yes, today what I do is I spend a lot of my time, I'm still an active business person, so I spend a lot of time within the property arena, investments, developments, that kind of thing. And I tend to be more of a landlord in these days than to run physical businesses. I have a large group of companies, but I also have a small group of companies in the environment of self-development and help, assisting other people to grow their own businesses and, more importantly, learn who they are and focus their own lives going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I coach, mentor. We have mastermind programs which are very, very powerful, and things are just amazing. You know, I'm amazed at how rapidly the businesses have actually grown in this arena, and how I've been helpful, how I could be allowed to be helpful to many people in this world.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you've got a really interesting journey that I would love for you to share with our audience. Like, obviously, 7 generations of, is that right? 7, so Sikh by origin, seventh generation, and real business background, like generations and generations of business people who are passing down information to you.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that, well, you tell us from about 19, I'd love to hear about your journey.
Oh, wow. Yes, I've been absolutely, to be honest with yourself, Kitty, I'm really, really honored to be a part of the Wahiwala dynasty, and it is 7 generations, yes, way back from 1700 something. We've all been in, kind of had like 2 or 3 strings to the bow, if you understand, where basically we've had the business element, but we've also a very high level of spirituality that sits within our family as well, which we tend to spend a lot of time and focus within in my case, a British Sikh, but obviously prior to that, the Sikh philosophy, which is very, very, I believe, quite mellow and understandable by everybody's means. And it's very spiritual, to be honest with yourself. And then the third element is always to be focused very heavily on family. So it's always been family, spirituality, and business in tandem with each other. So my journey, really, to be honest with yourself, I can tell you a little funny story. Way back in when I was 8 or 9 years old, when I had my very first business. And you think, well, okay, 8 or 9 years old, and how true can that really, truly be?
Started young.
Yeah, that's right. But it is, I'm afraid. I'm very proud to say that my mum has been very, very instrumental in nurturing foundational padstones and understandings in my life. And my father has been the external inspiration to see the strength of how things are done just by moving into places and understanding how the physiology of things working, how businesses can be done. So Dad's a go, get, go, start type person, what we call the philosophy of an extroverted energy of D and an I, a dominant and inspirer. And on the other side, my mum is very much a calm, understanding, loving, but also very calculating, very structured individual. So we kind of complement each other very well. I've been blessed, Kitty, just to say that I've had both of those nurturings instilled and installed in me. I'm one of 8 siblings. I'm the youngest, actually.
Youngest of 8, wow.
Yeah, usually the youngest ones tend to be the spoilt ones, but I'm sure I was spoiled. I can't say no, it wasn't. But at some stage, something clicked into my mind, and this is partly about the story that I'll like to share with you. my first business, I said to you, was around about 8 or 9 years old when I was selling football stickers. So I tended to spend a lot of time and effort in collecting football stickers. This is in UK, so if anybody can remember those years, that's how it used to be. We used to have these little stickers and little badges and stuff on them. But the reality was that I tended to fill mine up quicker because I had a little bit more access to capital, cash, income-wise from my parents. So what I did is I started selling those stickers at a premium. For example, when somebody wanted a specific sticker, I'd go through the process of trying to share with them how they could give me 3 for the 1 kind of thing, that kind of a business element. Because in business, the simplicity is just to sell something for a little bit more than what you pay for it, because that's business, right? So if I move on to when I was about 19 years old, 18 actually, when I was studying at the same time, I also decided to take over one of the shops that we had in retail, and that was actually a business which was hardware, DIY, and what we call in those days we used to call it fancy goods. So it was like all ornaments and things of that sort of nature as well, and heavily into electrical. So that was the first real business I got my teeth into at the age of between 17 and 18 years old. I ran it with my brother-in-laws to start off with. I later took over and took charge myself with another one of my brother-in-laws who was a similar age to myself. To explain it in a simpler way, things were going good. Within 8-9 months, I'd already doubled the turnover. It was a company that wasn't doing very well because it was my father's first business in 1967. And at the time, he had grown his portfolio of businesses, and he tended to spend a lot of time abroad, Birmingham, or in London, and not in our hometown of Peterborough. So it was it needed a little bit of focus on the business. So I gave that focus to it, I think. And at no means do I say that I knew everything before I started and I'd already got myself into perfection. Because as we all understand, perfection is a state of mind, not an end goal. So I learned on the job. We got up and we woke up in the mornings and we went out and we swept the streets and we cleaned the shop and all the things that you'd expect to do as a business person. So the story short, there was one particular time, I think, just to share that, I believe, when I'd started creating some income and I took over another business as well, which was a hotel at that time. And I think a little bit of arrogance set in as well. And I think this is a human thing to do. So I just want to share a little bit about this if I could, if that's okay, Kitty. Arrogance tend to set in. And I think it was about 17, 18, I was about 18 to 19 years old. And there I was, one day I'm sitting there at my dining room table. Imagine a simple rectangular table, my father at one side and I'm kind of next to the right, to his left, sorry, at a right angle. And I'm sitting talking and we were having a good old conversation and my father sitting and said, "Oh, things are going well in the shop, I take it." And I said, "Yes, they are, Dad. Things very well. We're doing quite well. Things are moving forward and sales are up and things are good." There I am, an 18-year-old with the car that I dreamt of. I had a Peugeot 205 GTI in those days. It was quite an effective vehicle. I had money in my pockets, if you can imagine. Whenever I needed to go out, I had friends. I had real friends, and I also had friends who want to tend to hang out with you when you've got money. And so for me, arrogance had set in because it was the first time that I'd actually taken that journey into business and I'd taken a formal process. So I then, I was still studying at the same time as well, but I went out and I decided, that I can do anything in life. That's what it was. And that's where the arrogance came in. And I'm not saying to think that I can do anything in my life is an arrogant move. No, I was doing it with arrogance. Of course, all human beings can do anything they put their mind to. And my father saved me, to be honest. He noticed and he recognized that I was spending kind of a little bit of time out and about, and I'd be driving my car a lot and have friends around them, and the element of arrogance was setting in, and maybe I'd given my mum a few answers that she, abrupt answer back, should I say?
Yeah.
And so he noticed this thing, and he said to me, "Oh, how's the shop going?" I said, "It's going great." And he goes, "I suppose money's good and everything's very well." Good. He didn't say good. He said, "Okay." And I'm sort of giving him a bit of a synopsis saying things are really good and things are like this and things like that. And I'm thinking about doing this next, in fact, doing this next. And he said, "Good. So," just before he got off the table, he said, "So, what's next?" As blunt as that. And my father, once you get to know him, is a really, really wise person. And there's about a few words. And he just said to me, "Okay, so what's next?" picked his plates up and just walked out. And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, weren't you going to say, well done?
Yeah.
Say good job, all that sort of ego stuff.
Yeah.
And, you understand where I'm coming from there, Kitty. But he didn't. He got up and walked away. And boy, was I arrogant. Was I
angry?
Yeah, I was very upset. I thought, okay, well, he didn't give me one praise. Well, I tell you what, I can't be bothered with it, kind of thing. But it didn't last very long because, as I said to you, the genius of my mum, she sat me down and said, "Oh, how did you spoke to Dad? And how's it going?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not really bothered anymore. I'm not going to be running the shops anymore. I'm going back to studying full time because I was studying part time." I said, "Oh, right, that's really good." She goes, "But what seems to be the problem?" Well, I did this and I did this and it didn't help me. He didn't even acknowledge that. And I said, and my mum just turned and said, maybe your father saw something in you that you didn't see. Maybe he tried to move in the right direction. And obviously at that time, I'm really hot in the head and colored pretty red. I didn't really want to listen to her, but I went to sleep on it. I woke up in the morning. And something happened through the night, I think. I just woke up and I thought, maybe there is more to life than just having a few £100 in your pocket, a car under your foot, friends around you, and that kind of thing. Those are all good things. But it's all about the intent, isn't it?
Yes.
It's my intention behind those things. So
were you at that stage, do you think, as a kind of a teenager, like you said, you're making good money, you're kind of out and about, were you kind of like the big I am, but this is what life is all about? Like,
yeah, it had set in at the time. This is pre this discussion. It had set in at the time where it was all about me.
Yes.
It's just about me. It's just like, let's get this sorted. Because originally I felt as though I didn't know what to do. And when you do something that you start getting good at, you just want to sort of grapple at it and you want to sort of secure it in your mind and say, I am good at this and this is what I do. So you tend to repeat the things you love and you feel confident in doing.
Yeah.
But with that confidence gets a little bit of ignorance, I think, sometimes, and we start becoming a bit we run away with the wind, we fly away with the wind, and get a bit of self-fulfillment.
So your dad kind of planted a seed with that question, what's next? But it's interesting.
My mum watered it.
And your mum watered it.
And my mum watered it. Dad planted the seed. Mum calmed it down and watered it, as she always does. It's beautiful.
And what happened next? Was it kind of like an epiphany, or did the universe almost take control?
I think I love the way you said that the universe take control, because I'm an advocate of the universe always has control.
Yes.
I know we've had this long discussion many nights and evenings and afternoons and dinner. The universe genuinely does have control. I think at that time, at the age of 19, I believe I was probably getting used to the fact that I myself are a part of the universe. Does that make sense? So yeah. Epiphany hadn't set in at that time, but what had happened is it kind of propelled me to go a little bit further within myself, and I started thinking about me and started understanding how I interact with humans as well. But it was still very young, premature thinking. It was not at all. It was more conflated than actual accuracy. This is more guesswork. Because I think at that age you are playing a lot of guesswork. So I then, in the subsequent months and years, around 20 months, I'd actually turned over the best part of £800,000 to £1 million. So it basically assisted me to pull myself together and move forward. So it was very, very good for me. I think the little grounding connection that my parents both gave me, which I'm truly blessed for, I think it assisted me. And in the following years, I just accelerated with an element of humility. I didn't tend to be much of a talker. I'm nowadays obviously speaking in front of thousands of people, with God's blessing. But it wasn't me at the time. I was just much more of a personal, private. Let's just get this done. Is it on my task? Is it on my agenda? Otherwise, I didn't spend time loitering around on other things. So it did tighten my view of life. Yes, you're right.
So what happened? You obviously, your dad asked, what's next? Did you start to kind of think, well, how and why am I here? Or did it open up something for you?
I think I was a little too young for that. I didn't quite get to that point of why am I here in life. I think that happened a bit later when I was around about 30, 31. I think about 30, 31, 32 time. And I'm sure we'll cover that conversation when I was in hospital. But at this time, it sort of led me to believe that there was more to do.
Right.
That was the key. The key there was that originally I thought, yeah, I've done it. I'm done. I'm okay for the world. Because the arrogance set in, the ignorance set in, and that's it. I'm done. I've got money in my pocket. I've got a car I wanted. This is life. And it made me realize that there's more to do in life. That's the first step that it did. It's kind of unlocked the more to do in my life. That was the key thing that happened there. And I accelerated my foot with business and went on to open up a few divisions within that same company, whether it's wholesaling pots, pans to the restaurants and of that nature. And also, I think my brother and myself, we started selling cards and international cards. And in the early years of the 90s, this is what I'm talking about, 90s to the mid 90s. And we also started another car audio division within the company, which grew to the sixth largest in the country. So I did quite a lot in that arena with possibility.
And talk us through, you mentioned, you kind of alluded in your 30s, things shifted and changed for you. Like, when would you say your life became more about active service?
Wow. That's a really deep question, Kitty, and I thank you for asking it. In an honest way, I'm speaking very openly with yourself. I tend to, I think it's because I see you as my sister, so I'm sharing in a very different way, and then the audience obviously holds the same energy as yourself. In 2006, I was 31 years old, if I'm correct, if I do the maths correct. I was 31 and I was going to be 32, but the story happened where I was abroad and we had a success at the time, and I'd sold the business and moved some stuff over. And I think I'd eaten something that had given me hepatitis A, which is through raw fish, etc. I didn't realize I'd got it, so I kind of pushed through this process on my own because of a determined nature and attitude at the time. And in subsequent months, this happened in January of 2006, and in the February sort of time, I was abroad. March, I was abroad again, and April, I was abroad again. All on business, by the way. And around April, May sort of time, my wife sort of said to me, she said, maybe you should spend some time and go to sit down with, take some time out and go and see the doctor, because you're feeling. I started feeling very puffy, and my joints started hurting, and my back was in a little bit of pain. But because of once I'd got up and moved on, it wasn't really a problem. I just got up and get on with it. It kind of slowed me down a little bit in the mornings, and then but once I got moving going, it was fine. Yeah. So she convinced me, because I didn't used to go to the doctor at the time. I hadn't been to the doctor about 40 years. But she convinced me to go to the doctor. The doctor gave me a really, I think, a thorough check. But he also gave me a very simple answer. His answer was, Sukhi, you're stressed. Because he kind of knew my background, the business, etc. And I kind of disagreed to an extent, rightly or wrongly. Today I sit there and say rightly or wrongly. But at the time I was absolutely adamant, that wasn't the way, because essentially arrogance was still a part of my nature and moving forward. And I decided that it wasn't what's the case, because stress is an outcome of anxiety, and anxiety is when I see the future going wrong. And at the time I had none of that inside me at all. I had no feelings, no discomfort around anything. So things were going from strength to strength, and I was growing in a rapid way, even as I am today. So the situation was that I spent a bit of time, and to be honest with yourself, what happened is I was missing something. I hadn't really realized that. Well, I'll tell you about the story first, and I'll tell you what really happened, I think, if that's better. So around May, June, July sort of time. June, my wife turned around and convinced me, let's go for a family holiday. So we went away for a 2-week holiday. And this is something that I've never said in public. So if I may share, because I know there's a spiritual audience here, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. We purchased a 14-day holiday to Florida, with the family. At the time, I had 3 children, God's blessings. My son was only about a year and a half old, and now I have 4 with amazing blessing. And we decided that we'd go for a 2-week holiday with the family. Now, specifically, 3 days before I flew away, I got a phone call from the tour guide, and he said, I need to refund your holiday. And this is 3 days before we were traveling. And I said, really? I said, so what seems to be the problem? And he turned around and said, the holiday isn't 14 days to 12-day holiday. And I kind of said, okay, great. So what you're going to do, you're going to replace the holiday with another holiday on the same day? He said, sorry, we can't do that. We haven't got anything ready in time. Now I said to him, look, at the time I was running a group of companies, and I said, I've kind of scheduled my time away with the children. So is there a possibility that you give me something in the same space? He said, we really have nothing to give you. So this was kind of blessing, because I then turned around and said to him, okay, I suppose you're going to be covering my hopper passes. Now, if anybody's been in Florida, that means covering all the hopper passes, which let you into all of the holiday environments, the theme parks.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So ironically, I'll speed it up a little bit. We did come to an agreement, and they said, okay, we'll cover your hopper passes. So if you think about it in realistic, 3 days before we flew, our main holiday was reduced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time. So, story short, if I can speed on, what happened is when I arrived back in the country on the Friday, which was, I think it was the 14th of July, 2006. So when I arrived back on that Friday, I then went to sleep and took some time out, even when I come back. And 2 days later, I had the most unbelievable excruciating pain in my stomach, and it cut across my abdomen. And what happened is my liver had swollen up 2.5 times the size it was supposed to have been. So massively swollen and virtually down to not functioning. And my kidneys were also not too functioning at the time as well. So I went into hospital. It was rushed off. I was rushed into hospital after the doctor came out and seen me. Now let's put it into context. When I got into hospital, I was given approximately 2 hours to live. Now, this is quite a deep conversation for me to talk about, but around 2 hours to live. And in that context,
they told you they thought that you had 2 hours to live.
Well, they told my wife, and I was overhearing it, to be honest. And it was like I was in and out of drifting medication, stuff like that. So I wasn't really quite sure whether it was the case, but I confirmed it after my wife. And they were talking to my wife and telling her that we don't think it's going to pull through. Please be ready, kind of thing,
Oh my God.
And, and I was 31 years at the time. I had my business empire that I still have today and grown in a different way. I'm the youngest of 8 siblings. As I said, I had 3 children at the time, and my wife was only 29 years old as well. So, it didn't occur to me at the time because I was in hospital under medications at the time. But it fell in place afterwards. To put it into a bit of a more of a context, if I can.
Yeah.
If I had not had the universe intervene, now this is very important for me to share this, and adjust my 14 days to a 12-day holiday, I think I'd be here. Because it became a 12-day holiday instead of 14 days, and it was exactly 2 days on the button when I went into hospital. So it's quite interesting the way I see life, and this is the point where you said, Kitty, earlier on, when did I get an awareness of what my purpose of life was and where I was going? I was away from my group of companies for nearly a year and 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because you were ill.
Yes.
So you were out of action for that long.
I was, and it's a very easy to say now. At the time, I didn't really feel much towards it, but I believe my family, my brother, my sister, my wife, my parents, and more importantly, my nephews and all that who were running in the business as well. Don't forget, I just left for a 2-week holiday, and there I am, 14 months.
Didn't come back for 14 months, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot happened, and a lot of things were learnt during that time frame. And what I learned within myself is that there may be something more that I'm here on this planet to do. And this is the key. And it may sound like cliche. It may seem that lots of people say this, but I'm going to be honest with you, this is exactly what went through my brain. So at that time is when I went through these processes in my brain, I thought, there's got to be more. So I came back, and within 20 months, I think it was a year and a half thereabouts, so maybe 18 to 20 months, I'd already decided that I was going to leave the retail business, standing in stores, across all our shops, etc. But I decided that I was going to change and start helping other people. And that's what I did. So I had my 32nd birthday in hospital. I came back out of hospital after 8 weeks. I spent a year, as such, a year away from my group of companies. I went back into the companies, and I took a decision that I was going to spend the time I wanted to spend there. And then after that, I was going to hand the business over and move on.
And was it a kind of a shift in your perspective, or what was the? Because obviously you nearly died.
Yeah.
What was the actual kind of catalyst for it? What was the thing that made you think, or was it just a feeling that you knew you were here to do bigger things and you needed to step into it?
Do you know, I think it's a combination of all of it. And I think the catalyst, the whole process, you spot on the nail there, Kitty. The actual catalyst itself was the whole process.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, I don't think I've ever shared this, but you've ignited a little thought in my brain, which I've rented upon many a time. Maybe I was being sent messages through my, adult life, little messages saying you've got to do a bit more. I always used to help people, by the way. I have, large amounts of sports cars, so, that sort of thing, and I'd be a bit of a collector. And what I'd do is anybody who wanted to borrow a car, just go them the key and say, go on then, take the car. And that was principally it. So the kind of nature that I had was very, I suppose, caring. And I wanted people to experience what I was experiencing in life, the goodness that I had, that I've been blessed with. So I think I had a slightly edge. Remember, I told you I have a bit of a dominant nature as well, and I probably was missing those little, little
signs that the universe is saying.
Yeah, little lines, the little tips, or the little connections, the little things that was missing. And maybe I was just being a little ignorant, maybe because I was not looking for it and I didn't find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think it took, because I told you I had a very strong nature, I think it took something really strong to hit me with a mallet to slow me down. And this is what actually happened in my brain. I missed all of the messages. I enjoyed the messages when they were happening, like sharing with my knowledge, sharing with helping people, helping them set up a company. And, I even funded one of my very close friends' first catwalks because he was a designer. I loved doing all this sort of stuff. Does that make sense? Helping people, facilitating and being a part of their journey to exceed and be the best they could be. But it just never occurred to me that maybe I should be doing it more often. So the question I think you aroused in my head was exactly that. The point is that I think maybe I was just ignoring the messages. So my question to anybody who's listening to this, note down the things that really make you feel good, because there's a message within them. Sometimes you don't have to wait to the end and get completely knocked out, close to death for you to realize that those bits are there. So in my world today, I spend a lot of my time helping. I've got actually, with God's blessings, I've got thousands of students, paying students around the globe. I think I've influenced a good part of 30,000 plus people now already with blessings. And I help actively over 600 people and businesses get what they want to achieve in their life. I've had a beautiful journey. And I think I made that decision that I had to do something more than what I was already doing to achieve with others, to try and help them to get themselves further forward in whichever way I had to do it. So I've been constantly studying, and whether it's neuroscience, history, or anything else. So today, all of this has helped me, including my experience within business. And I suppose you could say the expertise, even though I don't like saying expertise, I'd say maybe specialists, maybe my knowledge has been gifted to me by God. And we're working forward and trying to help other people through my syndicate methodology, which is a method that I'm writing currently, to try and unlock people, just unlock people. And I've got 3 steps to it to start off with, but we'll talk about whenever you're ready.
Well, no, I just think it's absolutely fascinating. I do, I've done nearly over 50 of these interviews now, and it's fascinating listening to people's journeys and stories, because it's all, I think we are given those signs and those signals, and if we don't necessarily pick them up, then, like you said, the universe finds a way almost to redirect us, and you
sure does.
Yeah, and it's fascinating hearing you talk about your previous life, because I didn't know you then, and that putting that Sukhi with the Sukhi I know now sounds like two different, completely different people.
Yes, I mean, we owe our friendships to a communal friend of ours and brother is Ian Young, who I think you've already interviewed. So I would never have met you, Kitty, if it wasn't for him as well.
Mm.
But I think our paths have crossed for the right reasons, and we've all matured together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, Kitty Talks podcast is all around sharing inspirational life stories, but also helping people tune into their purpose and their passion and make a difference on the planet. What advice would you have for our listeners, who are listening to this, who maybe they're not 100% clear about what it is they're here to do? What kind of steps can they take at this point in their journey? We don't want them to have near-death experiences if we can totally help it. What can they do now to kind of tune into why they're here on the planet?
Wow, what a beautiful question. It's really deep, actually. So I'm going to answer a question in a context where, firstly, I'm going to put a preempt there with exactly what you just said there. You do not have to have a near-death experience to take the value and the learnings from it. Please hang out with people who have gone through it and just learn what they've got, like we're going to share today. So that's the first caveat I want to put in place. So
yes.
You don't need that at all. There are 3 steps that I would advise individuals to do. In life, everything that we do is to do with our human communication and interaction, whether it's internal, whether it's external. So whether I'm communicating with myself, whether I'm communicating with another human being or a group of people. Now, I think the majority of us find it very easy to communicate with other people, but sometimes we have a problem with communicating inwards in ourselves.
Mm.
And I think the first step is inwards. This is one thing. This is what yes, thank you. And this is what happened with that particular incident in my life. It pushed me and forced me inwards. It made me think inwards. Made me think, who am I? What am I trying to do? So before you unlock yourself in any capacity, and I actually focus myself in spending a lot of my time unlocking. So that's one of my coin processes. I say unlock yourself first. And the key is step 1, to learn you. So work inwards first. So work and learn who I am. Once you get those sort of feelings of understanding who you are, you'll start deciphering between what's you, what's your passion, and what's your mission. Does that make sense? But you can't do it unless you move the magnifying glass. If you can imagine the room being all dark and you switched on a torch, and then you started shining the torch will only show you what it's shining light on. So it's like our mind. We've got to start looking inwards, and at least we can start moving the torch around until we can find it, and we find where our feelings are. So step 1 is to learn yourself. This is the Mycenius method as well. So step 2 is for you to learn other people. This means learn to read other people, learn to understand other people with their method and their world, their model of the world. There's a gentleman called Alfred Korzybski, who wrote a book called Science and Sanity way back in 1933. And he states that humans themselves, for example, that the map is not the territory. Now, this tends to be used quite extensively within neurolinguistics and other trainings, but the work was Korzybski's work. And he says the map being your brain and the territory being the world at large isn't the reality. Does that make sense? So the map itself isn't the territory. My brain, or what I see, is my version of the world, and your version is yours. Does that make sense? So the next stage is to learn other people's models of the world. Yeah. So you learn to read other people, you learn to understand their model better. And I use a loose variant of DISC, which is a dominant, influencer, stability, and compliance. Dominant individuals tend to be very strong-minded and end goal driven. But they tend not to be very detailed individuals, and they tend to be quite arrogant and self-centered to an extent. And then you have the influencers, which tend to be very much individuals who are in the happy-go-lucky environment, but they do take action. They take action very quickly, actually, without possibly even thinking about it sometimes. But amazing starters and many amazing human communicators. Their one challenge could be that they tend not to close things or complete things very often. They're, again, not much of a detailed person. And these two energies are called extroverted energies. Then we have an internal side of our brain, which is other types of people, which is the stability control. The stability individuals tend to be looking for safety in things, tend to look for connection, they tend to look for love in everything they do. They like to care for individuals. They sincerely look after people. And for them, it's about ensuring that there's a stability in life, that they don't want big visions, big pictures. They want to look at the now and today and who's in their world. This particular energy tends to have the least problem with knowing themselves. Does that make sense? So their stability energy. And then you have a compliant world. And the compliancy is people who are conscientious, more thought, conscious thinking.
Completer finishes.
Computer fillers, yes, right. And these individuals tend to be contemplators. They tend to have strategy, logic, and structure in their mind all the time. Steps, processes. So all four of those energies are absolutely perfect. None of them are wrong and none of them are right. None of them are wrong and none of them are right. But you can adapt between all of them. So this is the methodology that I'm putting together, where it's called the unlocked profile. The unlocked profile is who knows all of those four natures, knows themselves, and now can actually identify their natural behavior, which is them inside, and they can also identify their adaptive behavior, which is how they are on the outside with other people, tend to be the mask environment. So the 3 steps I'd say is learn yourself, the inside natural side.
Yeah.
Who am I? What are my natural tendencies? Then learn other people. And the step 2 is to learn other people, see how their natural tendencies are. And then step 3, which is very important as well, is learn the skills to listen and adapt to that energy. That means to connect with them with integrity, so you're genuinely aligned with them. But these are the first 3 steps that I would advise anybody before they start finding out what their mission is. Because once you've got those 3 steps, you can genuinely start to unfold your own mission. Because you'll know who you are, you'll know what the people are, you'll know how you're being influenced or how you're influencing others, and then you'll know how you're being grounded.
I'm just thinking about it in my own kind of context. It's very true, because I think most people's purpose or why they're here is so natural to them that they may not recognize it as a skill or gift or talent, because it just comes so naturally to them.
That's so correct. We always devalue what we are internally. And in some cases, the dominant nature, the D energy, doesn't devalue themselves. In fact, they devalue everybody else's nature. For them, it's all about themselves. But you're spot on.
Yeah, and and what you said as well, I think we have to be clear. So we are a vessel, and so we can't necessarily hear the signals or signs if there's too much, going on. One of the things I always say to people is, if you have got a really busy lifestyle, then do take yourself on a holiday where you can just have a bit of time and space to be with yourself and actually hear the messages.
Now, a lot of the things that I'm advising individuals is there's a beautiful methodology in Japan, and they basically spend time with trees. Trees. Sounds really woo-woo. Trees.
Yeah.
They don't do anything to them. They don't go and jog around them. They don't walk around them. They don't meditate. They don't do anything. There's a new methodology where it's not new actually. It's thousands of years old, but they're reigniting it again, where they're just getting people to just spend time with trees. And they have a beautiful philosophy that trees have their own spirit. And literally people walk through parks with trees, and they go into they have little pods going from cities where they're just spending time with nature and trees, with no particular agenda, just breathing, the chemicals that they release, the antibacterial, everything's so beautiful about the trees. It's an old understanding, and they're just coming back round. And I was just reading a partial white paper this morning, actually, and it was around just spending time with trees.
Well, they're very grounding, aren't they? So you would ground yourself if you spent your time out in nature and your feet flat on the floor of the ground.
And yes, absolutely. And one of the key things there is keep your feet flat on the floor. But also the secondary is you could just lay down, you could do what you want, but it's about removal of technology. You take technology out of the sequence and then allow the trees in, and then you're good. Now, this doesn't mean by no means, and I'm not being vindictive, but I'm not saying go around and hugging trees. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just saying just spend time in nature, just walk, switch your phone off and go for a walk. And these sort of things really help you calm yourself down and start with it, what we call, it starts a dialogue of internal reflection. And that's what we're trying to achieve, aren't we? So the 3 steps, I'll just repeat them, is learn yourself, which is where you get these internal reflections. Learn others. Learn others, learn how to adapt, learn how to read other people, and then learn to respect other people's model of the world. And then finally, step 3 is to learn how to adapt between these 2 worlds. And it's as simple as that. And this is one of my missions, which I go through, and I'm kind of known as the unlocked mentor. So I tend to help people get themselves unlocked and let them find their own journey in life. That's what life's about.
And so when you help unlock people, you help them effectively tune into themselves and have that clarity within themselves to understand how they can take their lives forward.
Yes, absolutely. And this is done through a single day. It's one day of intensive. Don't think it's a light training. It's an intensive unlocking. And you go through by lunchtime, you truly start to understand yourself. By the afternoon, you learn how to use it with other people, how to communicate with them. And by the end of the day, you learn all the adaptation processes, and it becomes very harmonious within everything in your life. Whether it's business, whether you want to achieve yourself, whether you want to find out what your mission is in life, whether you want to move forward, whether you want to learn how you make good friends, even if you want to be the best partner to your partner and have a great relationship in life. It teaches you how to learn the other person and give a bit of respect to that space as well. And then even if you go to business elements of customers, staff, team, instead of the old authoritarian way of running your business, take on the new way of inspiring the people. So it's principally where we can take that today.
Thank you so much for listening to Kitty Talks. Be sure to head over to our kittytalks.com website and become a member of our exclusive club, and you'll get free interviews and access to our private Facebook group, exclusive webinars and secret success interviews. See you there.